Good evening. As a part of our 6th Anniversary CNE, this is the 7th week, and the second presenter on this session is Jyothi Srinivas, and she is doing a case about, it's called From Vascular Constriction to Vitality. It's about diastolic hypertension and how through a lot of our the intervention of 108 days lifestyle medicine journey, reversal of this was possible, and details of which, of course, Jyoti ma'am is going to give us. So over to you, Jyoti.
Thank you, Dania. Okay, so good evening, everyone. Thank you all for joining me today. So, blood pressure. Blood pressure is rarely we see it as a disease itself. It's a kind of body language reflecting what is happening beneath the surface. Today I'm going to present a case of a 46-year-old male whose blood vessels had become constricted. It's not only his blood vessels, his whole life has become constricted by pain, stress, and declining health. So this is his 108 days journey from vascular constriction to vitality. So let's meet the person first. So as I said, he's a middle-aged IT professional who has an MCA graduate. So his primary concerns were a lot of blood pressure fluctuations, but there were so many associated problems like chronic low back pain, left knee pain, plantar fasciitis, generalized body pain. And because of all these various kinds of systemic pains, there is always a reduced mobility. So if we see each of these symptoms, it looks like everything has to be dealt separately. But somehow, somewhere, I felt like all of these are interconnected. So let's explore how these are interconnected as we go into the story of this client. So we began to see first the hypertension as one expression, but later we realized like it is not just a fluctuation of blood pressure. There is a deeper physiological imbalance which is involved as we dwelt through the history of this client. So there is a lot of sedentary lifestyle, there's a lot of chronic stress, pain, physical inactivity, which all these four components together has come up with a lot of systemic overdrive. I'm going to talk more on this in the upcoming slides. What is systemic overdrive? Sorry. A lot of systemic overdrive, and that has further reduced the functional capacity and performance of the client. So before joining into our program, the Lifestyle Reset, the client has gone through a lot of previous treatments. So he has gone through the regular conventional medicine path where he met the physician and got medicines for the hypertension. But somehow he was not happy with the medication dependence. He carries a belief system that I'm too young to get into the loop of using medicines and I don't want to use medicines. That's a limiting belief he holds, and he never wanted to use medication for his treatment. Since his belief system is like that, he never continued with the conventional system of medicine. Then he shifted to the Ayurvedic system of medicine, where he felt like, oh, it's much easier one. But as he tried a lot of natural and Ayurvedic options and severe dietary restrictions were imposed, it created a lot of burning sensations and heat and a lot of overheatedness inside the body. He encountered with a lot of gastrointestinal discomfort, which again put a speed break to the sustainability, and the treatment was discontinued. So, whereas all these things, and in between, he tried homeopathy too. And he continued that homeopathy treatment even after certain days of joining the holistic lifestyle reset program. And finally, he has found us, and where we began the journey. Okay, before even getting into the intervention part, what to do, we have documented his baseline health. So a lot of details were taken, his clinical profile, the anthropometry was taken. His blood pressure was constantly monitored every month for 7 to 10 days. It's home monitoring, of course. And a lot of pain journal assessment was done. Quality of life assessment was done, and emotional well-being and the functional status. So we have measured his health status in various parameters even before starting the program. So here comes his values. So his blood pressure before the intervention has been started. So if you notice, see the blue line. The blue line is all the systolic blood pressure, which looks quite normal. It's around 110 to 120. But if you see the diastolic, it has to be around 80, but it is also at the equally the same range. So we usually don't see this pattern of blood pressure. It would be, both would be up, and especially for youngsters and middle-aged persons, we don't see that. Then it got a lot of curiosity to understand this pattern of readings, which helped me to land into further research. So I found out that usually above 60 and above the older grade population, we get to see a more of systolic high blood pressure, because it's basically because of the hardening of the arteries and a real problem with the clots, and the blood was not able to push up through that. It's all anatomical changes. But when we see to the younger segment, who are almost into the 40, if they go for the testing, all the cardiovascular system appears normal, because there is no problem with the system as such. But still the blood pressure shows up high, because it's again interlinked with something called, peripheral vascular resistance. I'm going to talk more on this again, but that's where we were able to identify the reason and got a clue to proceed ahead. So even before going to the prescription, let me explain what is this peripheral vascular resistance is. It's nothing but the resistance the circulatory system, the blood holds to overcome, it has to overcome the resistance to push the blood to the body from the peripheries, from the edges, and this created a lot of resistance. What happens, see, when you wanted to water the plants, and if you hold the pipe tighter, the pressure increases. So when there is a lot of resistance at the peripheral edges of your arteries and veins, the pressure automatically increases. And the reason for that is again interlinked with the sympathetic overdrive. So what is the sympathetic overdrive? That's where we dwell into the 7 areas of life of the client. Sympathetic overdrive is nothing but the hypervigilance of the nervous system. The body is constantly on chronic stress. And why the body is constantly on chronic stress? Let's dwell into his life. So they're financially stable. Physically, of course, I have explained there is a lot of physical discomforts. And also emotionally, there is a lot of fear of performance. There is a fear of future, how for kind of people who have the fear of future, they keep accumulating resources now because they want to handle the future well. But that again puts them into something called overperformance drive. So this entire family, I have observed that overt performance drive. They want to exceptionally do well in everything that they do. With their children, into the dance, into the music, into the studies, everywhere they have to do exceptionally well. Similarly, my client, he's an IT employee. His wife has a cloud kitchen. He helps her in the cloud kitchen. And apart from these two, he also runs a wholesale rice business. So imagine how much on the plate to handle in 24 hours. No time for anything other than handling these multiple targets that they keep for themselves, which has ended up only in compromised physical health. Okay, so that's where the story started and the reasons identified. And this is where we have come into the lifestyle prescription, which included, of course, the three components: exercise, nutrition, and the holistic approach. So these are the predominantly the most useful interventions for the client, but I'm going to talk about them in detail one by one. So the first one is exercise. So you all know that the lifestyle reset program, we run exercise sessions morning 5 to 5:45 every day. And let's see why exercise is very important. It's not only to reduce his physical body or to reduce his BMI, because he's around 95 kgs, around 90 plus, but it's also to improve the vascular health. As we are talking about the peripheral vascular resistance, let me explain you what is happening, why the diastolic pressure is increasing. When there is no mobility, when there is physical inactivity, when the life is too sedentary, and when the chronic levels, stress levels are at most high, the musculoskeletal system becomes tightened, and the body becomes into the hypervigilance, and the body doesn't feel like it is not in a safe mode anymore, so it restricts every other system. So to relieve it from there, the regular exercise, it improves this musculoskeletal activity. And this musculoskeletal activity, what happens when we do exercise, there is an increased muscle activity. The increased muscle activity demands more of oxygen and more of nutrients, right? So this more of oxygen and more of nutrients is again supplied by a lot of blood. So there is a lot of friction created to supply more of blood. That friction is called something called shear stress in muscles. This shear stress produces something called or nitric oxide. So that increased nitric oxide, it improves the endothelial function, and that reduces the peripheral vascular resistance, and that can further improve the diastolic blood pressure regulation. So this is how it works. When the muscles contract during the exercise, it produces the nitric oxide. So the endothelial cells relax. So vasodilation occurs and there is improved blood pressure. So to make this happen, there was a 45 minutes of daily exercise, which includes cardio strength and flexibility every day. And it really, really worked. And we'll see about the results later on. And that's one part of peripheral vascular resistance we handled with exercise. But there is another major aspect of chronic stress, because of which the sympathetic overdrive is already on, and we have to handle that. And the body would feel safe, how much ever we may think we will have to be calm, we have to be, happy. It doesn't happen just like that, because body understands only the language of emotions. So how you feel becomes the language of your body, not what we do. So having said that, we have given conscious breathing as one of the major interventions. One of the major interventions is conscious breathing and meditation, because when we constantly do this breathing pattern, the body gets into the calmer state of mind. The body feels safe. When the body feels safe, it reduces the sympathetic overdrive because it stimulates the parasympathetic system. And that reduces the vascular tone and improves the blood circulation. So this conscious breathing, it is given to practice every single hour, at least 2 minutes. Every 1 hour, 2 minutes, they have to do for entire program. And this micro practice was repeated throughout the day, and it has brought up so much of fantabulous changes. So then comes to the nutrition part. I haven't made too many changes in this because I told you about his structured day. It is too much here and there, and he doesn't have any time for anything. But what I could initially do was, since they have an attached cloud kitchen, a lot of food comes from the cloud kitchen to the home, because especially the evening snacks like samosas, the pani puris, the cutlets, and a lot of oily fried stuff, which is part of the cloud kitchen, they usually enjoy it as an evening snack. That's the first thing we have cut down. and replaced with healthy fruits. That one snack replacement has brought up so much of calorie restriction. Not only calorie restriction, he also needed to nourish with the right nutrients. So, and the irregular choices were given with little healthier choices. We just regulated his meal frequency. There's so much of irregular meal timings, but we have brought up a structure in your meal, in his meal timings, because we consciously allowed him to write the food journal, which helped him to realize where the lapses are happening. That self-realization itself helps them, apart from the counseling that we offer, to bring up the changes in the meal timings. And the sole one intervention that I've tried is introducing the healthy meal plate. Instead of having whatever is there, make a meal plate, at least make sure there is protein and there is sabji, dal and curd and rice in equal portion. That's one factor. If you can follow, that could bring up a lot of change. That's what I've tried, and just avoided the processed foods. These are the only small changes I have made to his diet. And then comes to the inner environment, which is most important, because we are talking about peripheral resistance, sympathetic overdrive, and we need to create a calmness. That calmness is not only created through conscious breathing, but also apart from conscious breathing, he was given gratitude and self-forgiveness practices. So this gratitude practice really, really makes miracles, because in a hectic day, when we keep running behind relentless things, we often forget the best that we have in our life, but we keep on chasing for what we want more in life, which always keeps us in a lacunae. So gratitude journaling really, really helped, and it really improved the emotional well-being. But the game changer was this. There was a self-forgiveness letter which he used to write every day to his heart. There's a huge content to that. I'm not going to get into the complete details of the letter, but basically it is writing to your own heart that I'm sorry. Thank you for carrying me all these days. And now I choose peace, over the pressure, and my heart deserves peace. And sometimes healing begins with the smallest conversations that we have with our own self. And that really worked with this client as well. So after all these things, what's the transition? What has been changed after 108 days? So there are a lot of parameters that we have observed. There are anthropometric measurements, weight before and after. There are blood pressure measurements, this quality of life survey, the psychological well-being we have measured. Overall, in all of this aspect, there is little or some or the more improvement was seen. Let's see the blood pressure values. This is the most important. I want you all to see. See, when we started, these are home recorded readings. When we started in phase 1, if you see the systolic, diastolic blood pressure, see, it's all in these readings. It's really, really high. And as we started moving through the journey, the values have come down. See, 84, 71, 75, 71. It is okay. But if you see the variability, look at the variability between the readings. There is something called, it's 108 and 84. The variability between the readings is too high. And that heart rate variability, having that much is also not good. But as we proceeded, going further into by following the interventions, if you see the systolic BP remained constantly controlled, as well as the diastolic readings. It all remained constantly within the study range. And if you see, there is no much variability. The variability has come down to a lot later. So this picture has changed the entire overall the control become more steadier, and BP has become normal. And this again indicates what has worked with the interlinked factors that we discussed earlier. And if you see the anthropometric measurements, he lost around 3 kgs of weight. The BMI was reduced, waist and hip circumferences were reduced, and it clearly shows that central adiposity has reduced. And especially for men who has hypertension, you all know how important is central adiposity. It is very important not to have it. And that's a clear physical dimension which we could able to measure in relation to the readings that I have showed earlier. And then comes the quality of life. If you look at the 7 areas of life again, this is a self-assessed questionnaire by World Health Organization. We give the questionnaire to the clients and they self-answer, and the score comes automatically. So if you see the scoring, there is a improvement in the physical health, there is an improvement in the psychological health. So overall, the quality of life is improved, and it is in relation to the improved BP readings, improved body measurements, and it is reflected here as well. And as a holistic coach, it's more important to showcase how the emotional healing happens. So we have measured that emotional well-being through Heartland forgiveness scale, where 3 components were measured: self-forgiveness, forgiveness of others, and forgiveness of situations. And it has also showed a clear improvement in the scores generated. And here comes the heart of my presentation. I really wanted to tell you all that, we measure the attendance and adherence every single day for 108 days. And when you see the attendance, he has only attended 66% of the exercise sessions. The rest was not attended. But when you see the lifestyle intervention adherence, it's hardly 15 to 20%. With, the most interesting observation why I have said this is the patient was not that adherent because he is too busy here and there. We could able to pull him little here and little there. And with that little, we could see measurable improvements. Just see, this reminds us how meaningful change can begin with little impact, little efforts. What if they do 70% to 80%, it will transform their entire life. So it's never too less for anything. Even the least efforts could bring up some meaningful changes. So this is what I have learned through this case, through exercise, nutrition, breathing, and emotional regulation. We could able to reduce the systemic drive, which has improved the endothelial function of the arteries and veins, and it reduced the peripheral vascular resistance, and that improved the blood pressure regulation. And finally, the strengths and limitations. Of course, the strengths are we could have constant BP monitoring over time, and it is not a single component, just reading the BP values. We have measured body measurements, the quality of life, the emotional well-being. The various multi-components were assessed, so it helps us. And it's very practical in this real-world situations where only one aspect cannot bring up. We all know that very well. But again, this is a single case. We need more to prove this, thesis, or what we would call this hypothesis to the world. So the key takeaways as a holistic coach, this is my standard line: never treat the case, always treat the person. And of course, I've learned a lot about vascular regulation and how that is related to diastolic hypertension. And it's proven again that lifestyle medicine can bring up a lot of physical, physiological, and psychological changes along with patient-reported outcomes. And usually anyone getting heart attack or stroke, or they immediately rush to the hospital, get stenting done or something else done, angioplasty done. These procedures have become very common, that they've become the next door procedures. But we have to understand that emotional well-being deserves a place in cardiovascular care. And finally, very small sustainable changes. We don't need rigid rules in life. Small sustainable habits may lead to meaningful health improvements over time when done consistently. So finally, this is how I want to conclude my presentation today. So we did not begin by treating the blood pressure, definitely. That was never the thought. We began by helping the person restore balance. And as the balance improved, the numbers began to tell a different story. Thank you all for listening to me.
Yeah, amazing. Lovely presentation, Jyothi. It was put across very well, all the numbers, all the comprehensively all clubbed together and bringing a big whole picture of this one patient. And a lot of new learnings from, at least for me, a lot of new learnings from this case and beautifully presented case. So thanks a lot for that and congratulations. It's really, for every coach over here, I think it's a very, very big milestone to get the person to be consistent, doing things at a small, a little micro habit changing, which is where the coach's role is very, very essential. And that's what we are helping other people do, right? So thanks a lot. Any one thing I wanted to also, I just noticed in this about the nitric oxide that you said, the
Sorry.
lowering of the nitric oxide you said, right? With exercise, I have also heard that breath work also helps in lowering this. The more deeper your exhalation is, the better is the nitric oxide production, which activates the parasympathetic. So
Definitely.
yeah, so both ways it has, given a lot of healing and improvement in the patient. That's nice.
Right, right. So you have any questions, guys, or we are open for discussion. If you have any queries or anything that you want to share, you're welcome.
Great case study again. Looking forward for many such reversals in the ongoing 108-day reset program. Congratulations for this case and all the best for the future cases.
Thank you, Padmaja. Yes, Rashida, go on.
Hello, ma'am. I actually wanted to ask that mostly we have seen in, weight loss cases, like weight loss is also a concern along with the health thing. The belly fat is there, both in males and females. So I just want to ask this, that the belly fat goes only through the weight training in the gym, or is it possible with the, holistic approach, and even at home it is possible, the belly fat, because it is quite stubborn, it just doesn't go away like that.
Yeah, before Jyoti, before you answer, just let me ask Rashida a question.
Yeah,
Rashida, what do you think is the reason for developing the belly fat? Have you, I
yeah,
mean, understood the pattern as to why a person actually develops the belly fat?
it is the stress, and if we see holistically, it is protection, a need for protection, mainly in the belly area.
Okay. One is stress and the other one is that. Okay. Oh, fine. Now, thanks for the answer. I think I'll get back to you after Jyoti answers.
Okay.
That's really wonderful question, Rashida, because this is where everybody's stuck, belly fat.
Yeah,
And people think that only when they hit gyms and do strength training, it all happens. Yes, there is a lot of holistic reasoning behind when people go through a lot of anxiety and chronic cough. We always start accumulating more of, abdominal fat. That I'm not going to answer in detail now. But to your question, gyms are not required because our program proves that we do no equipment exercises every day from home. Okay, so you don't
okay,
need gyms and all, but what is important to understand is what kind of strength training is a person doing? Is that strength really sufficient for that person? And how it is actually acting on the body, and how the method of doing, we when you combine strength or training or exercise training with a breath work, it brings up tremendous changes. And you have to observe two things here. It's not only the if we do abdominal exercises, the fat around the abdomen will not melt. That's not how it works, because the fat
yeah,
distribution has its own way of living in each of the body. So when we do exercise, most of the time the fat distribution rechanges inside, rechanges. It moves around to the various other body parts. That's
oh,
one way of looking at. And the second way is how strong are your muscles to hold the fat. most of the time here comes posture, improper posture. People sit like this. It automatically puts the fat outside and the muscles lose its capacity to hold it well. The grip holding is lost because the muscle doesn't have that strength. So when the postures are maintained, when the strength training is done, when the cardio is done, because for fat loss, cardio is very important, and equally, when you accompany that with the right breath, then it works magics. A simple example for all home people who doesn't want to hit anywhere but want to lose weight is just think of our sages. Think of our rishis and munis. They just sit silent, backbone straight, eyes closed, not exposed to the external world. They don't bother because all the chronic stress is because of the external world chaos. When you shut your eyes and sit down and stay calm and breathe, that breath becomes your prana, and that what melts your fat. A simple tip for you.
Thank you so much, ma'am.
Yes, that's rightly said. And coming to the question that I asked you, it's also, as you said, with the stress, Rashida, another factor that comes up is irregular sleep pattern. So if the person is not sleeping well, it could be many reasons for not sleeping on time, or delayed sleep, or disturbed sleep, or whatever. But if there is no proper sleep hygiene, this pattern will be seen in most people who are not sleeping well. Because it rises cortisol, and then it messes up with the insulin, and then all the cycle continues and the fat deposition comes across. So that's how the fat is deposited. And Jyothi has explained very nicely as to how to regulate and how to go about, managing that deposition of fat. So I hope you got your answer.
Yes, ma'am, definitely. Thank you so much.
So, do we have any more questions, guys?
Ma'am, no question, but that's a beautiful narration, ma'am. The slides and the way you have collected all the data and the compiled, and the way the graphs were made. It is so beautiful. Even after an hour, we were so excited. Still, even 10 more minutes, 15 more minutes, we are ready to listen to you. That's how it was. It was beautiful. And yes, ma'am, these were like sympathetic overdrive, and these are new terms that today I got to learn. And the reason behind was also that beautifully connected. And the one thing I loved in your presentation today is the forgiveness that he asked for his heart. Okay, he said sorry, and and he chose peace and acceptance, right? So that was really beautiful. And of course, Prasanna ma'am's presentation was also very nice, and it's always happy that welcoming children into one's life. So that was also a wonderful presentation. Yeah, thank you, ma'am. Wonderful listening to you as always. Yeah.
Thank you, Soumya.
Thank you, ma'am. As Soumya said, it was a wonderful narration.
Yeah, thank you, Kavita.
So I think if we do not have any queries, I would like to thank Jyothi and Prasanna for coming up and presenting beautiful case studies. And looking forward to the next week, where we will be coming up with a couple of more case studies. And any of y'all who have got any cases which is ready, y'all can get in touch with Jyothi or me or any other senior coach, so that we can line you up for the next Friday session. So thank you all for this patient listening, and thanks a lot. Bye-bye.
Thank you, Danya. Bye, everyone. We'll see you next Friday at 6 p.m. again.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you, presenters.